I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me?
Pimping safe is all for the colonial state. Working off fears and tears of women-bodied, trans-bodied, creates the burning question, what do I do if I'm attacked by a stranger or a mate? But who really is unsafe? Yes, us women-bodied, trans-bodied humans can relate to a knowing fear of what if and how can I walk at night without my self-defense tactics straight? I would argue it's a different gaze, a different space, a different reality. Unhoused humans in public space, black and brown youth walking, dreaming, thinking, while in a Americlan race. All the brothers and sisters, race and class adjudicated, living in those false borders and cages. Matter of fact, I would argue that no one is ever completely safe in this stolen land state, but that folks with class and race lightness on their face have a lot more chance of living, not being shot and profiled, to live another day. To lift up the security, safety, and reality, we are already walking in a reality that's a set up from the get up for houseland folks and folks with melanin. This podcast from a poverty scholar is dedicated to all the frontline workers, and those frontline workers from UCSF who we had the blessing of sharing our no poLice, no security enforced state teaching with. And all those frontline workers on those grocery lines and those medical lines and those health lines and those front lines, straddling the fine lines of the front lines, the fine lines of the front lines, so that wealth hoarders and land stealers can continue to be protected and never expected to put their bodies on the line. And what does that mean for your bodies, your lives, and your personal humanity? The ways that class and race always play in Americlan policies and laws lock in place an intangible gray area on the lie of safe. That how can you even be safe when it means we aren't all safe? In cities across this stolen land, colonial government structures promote, perpetrate, and implement absolute lies that keep these lies of safety in place. An example of safety being politricked is the hypocrisy of San Francisco and Sacramento perpetrating the absolute violence of sweeps of houseless humans while we are in a pandemic. And then in San Francisco placing these ridiculous public hate, quote, relations campaigns that says, find somewhere safer to sleep, while making sure you can't sleep there. Locked in with violent architecture and emergency cones in so-called public that isn't really public for anyone who don't got a home, while poor and by the same token threatened hundreds of shelter-in-place motel residents with eviction from their shelter-in-place motels in the middle of a pandemic. When how you gonna shelter in place if you don't got a place? Shout out to fellow Poor Magazine People School poverty scholars from the Poor People's Love, Work, and Security team. Shout out to warriors from MH First and Anti-Police Terror Project, Community Ready Corps, Sacramento Homeless Union, Poor People's Army in Philly, Eder Stelly Foundation, and Cop Watch for lifting up the truth about how we keep us safe, about the connections the terrorizing poLice state continue to perpetrate, but also important to take a pause. Take a pause, family, and spend some time to breathe in your unseen privilege, the ways that you never have to check on the proximity of a poLice car next to you, Don't have to worry about store owners, security guards following you. You don't enter the world, workplace, street corner, school, or neighborhood with an overt and covert bias attached to your body. Take a pause to see how in your personal body we have all been loaded up with what I call the privilege of privacy, while still so many struggle with the violence of exposure. How these lies and violences are taken for granted in the discussion of escalation and de-escalation, land use, and the endless drone of fake-ass never really was affordable housing. Politricked, philanthropimped, so far up the nonprofit tier, sis, that you don't even know where it begins. These realizations don't make it easier to face violence when it's in your face, and doesn't mean you should not talk about work or personal safety. And please don't confuse it with your own guilt or racial bias. Nah, this is a call out to embody patience, to unpack overstanding, and to lift up and live in to what I call community reparations and radical redistribution of your internal, implicit, and explicit privilege. Meaning that you work personally within your white or light-skinned privilege to figure out what resources you can leverage in your own life. And like we teach folks in people school, begins with your own life, your own community, your own family, your own elders, your own privilege in the workplace, school space, and the ongoing silence about resources and hoarding and gentrifying and taking and racing and classing and tricking and never seeing. This podcast from a poverty scholar was brought to you with love, with a public service announcement, call to action to stop the inaction and manifest school and liberation. For more information about People School's upcoming January 30th and 31st seminar, go to www.racepovertymediajustice.org.
Bad times are coming and I reap what I done sow. Hey, hey. Well, let me tell you something. All that glitters ain't gold.